Hey, what's up everybody? Tarafdar back with a brand new video as promised. And today I'm going to share with you a $60,000 business mistake that I've made that I think is a valuable lesson for yourself. And if you're starting a business, I think this is the ideal spot to be in, to listen from somebody who's experienced in these matters, that have gone through some of the hurdles and obstacles that kind of derailed me from my original business focus. And the reason why I want to share this with you is because unfortunately, what happens is when you have situations like that occur, and when you make such a sizable mistake, what you have to do is you have to be very cautious to every business decision you make after that point, right? And hopefully you learn a lesson, you kind of understand, hey, what are some of the rules and guidelines and what are some of the things to avoid when it comes to making business decisions for the long haul. Now, in my last video, we talked about the choice of making a business with a partner, the idea of selecting a partner effectively. And just to recap on this video, I'm going to tell you the 4 steps that we talked about last week. So the first one, we discussed the idea of finding somebody who's psychologically stable. We discussed that. It was very brief, but it's very intellectually driven for you, so you can understand exactly what are some of the mistakes that I've personally made when it came to making business choices to selecting a partner. The second thing we talked about is that you make sure that that individual is the business decision maker, right? So whoever it is that you're bringing on board for long-term partnerships, that they make the business decisions by themselves and are not dependent on somebody else's input to decide to make the business go forward, and some of the decisions that you need to make sure that your business is running. The third component we talked about was the victim mentality, right? You cannot bring that component of victim mentality and that person's fault or this person's fault or my fault this and I feel sorry for myself. And the business world cannot recognize that, because the business world is for success. It's a system. You have to build it. You have to cater to it. At the end of the day, all the business understands is money, no emotions, no feelings, no psychological distress or mindset. It just understands money. And your goal as a business owner is to make sure that you're servicing that component of the business and you keep your personal affairs separate from your business affairs. And then we talked about the idea of finding somebody who's really good at what they do, essentially, right? Finding a partner who understands the terms well, that you guys both agree on, and then eventually you move on to the business with that person. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people kind of go back and forth with terms and conditions, but that's one of the things that can be adjusted over time. So long as you guys stick to the principle, you journal that, you take care of it, you guys sign off on it. And then, of course, you make that business go forward, especially when everything is in line. The first 3 elements are in line. And the final one is essentially, making sure that that person that you're going to be doing business long-term with is committed to the terms that you guys agreed on. Now, final thing I want to say is a lot of times what ends up happening is a lot of us get so excited about the business that we share a lot of information, proprietary things that can get us, let's say deep stuff that can essentially derail the business, that can essentially put us off focus and kind of make us stuck because unfortunately we essentially created a competitor or a big problem for ourselves. Now, this happened in one of the businesses that I used to own, and what we started was that business was for the sake of real estate, right? So that business was to create real estate holdings to help people in Montreal invest in real estate assets and companies as well. So we had 2 different types of scenarios, and we were in the process of creating an offering memorandum, which is essentially, like, I'm not a securities attorney, but what that is that if you're going after investors, especially accredited investors, you have to have this document. Now, most of the times you have to hire an SEC attorney and the Canadian Securities Authorities here, appointed attorney who knows exactly about the affairs of creating securities and issuing them to the public or private for that matter, when it comes to raising money. Now, what we had done is I had partners with me, and unfortunately what ended up happening was, like I said, we give too much information on the table. Some of us got really excited. Some of my business partners just decided to bring a whole lot of investors, and we ended up getting fined because we didn't have our offering docs ready, and we ended up getting fined close to $58,000. And that was basically, we didn't have our prospectus ready. We solicited to investors or a lot of different type of advertising was done just to get the momentum going for our business. Now, that's like a penalty, right? So what happens is if you go through those issues yourself, like let's say if you're starting a business, and the reason I'm sharing this with you is because you don't want to make the same mistake I did, right? Hold your cards. Don't lay them out on the table, because if you do that, then there's no going back. The only time you should do that is if you have all your ducks in a row. And if you don't have that, what's going to happen is you're going to get in trouble. Somehow, this information is going to leak out there. Some things can happen. You can get sued for it. All sorts of issues can come out of this. So you have to be very careful. So do your due diligence. If you're launching a business, I know that most of us get really excited because, we feel so strongly about that and we want to share all the information up front. But that can actually land you in trouble, as it did to me, right? And essentially what ended up happening is because the documents weren't ready, because the insurances were still in discussion, it wasn't valid at the point, and the government essentially look at that as hey, look, you're giving fraudulent information, you're providing information that's not accurate. And basically, because we didn't have that offering ready, and because we kind of pre-solicited, essentially got offerings out there by word of mouth, even though the documents weren't ready, that caused a huge delay for our success. That actually, cost $50,000 in fines, administrative penalties, and everything like that. That's a small ticket for like the financial world, but at the end of the day, it's still money, right? So if you're trying to start a business and if you're going through those type of issues, it's costing you. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because, some of you may want to look me up or whatever it is and do your research and say, look, Ellie, hey, what's this company and what happened here? So I just want to be upfront with you guys. I want to tell you that don't make the same mistakes I made, because definitely you don't want to be in that situation, right? You don't want to start a business with a debt of $50,000 that you owe to the government. But at the same time, right, do your due diligence. When you're doing syndication, like for example, in real estate, when you're gathering investors together, contact a securities attorney, talk about the type of deal. First and foremost, like, don't go to an attorney right away. I'm not saying that you shouldn't hire. You definitely should hire an attorney, but don't go to them right away. Have your deal structured in your mind on paper first. Make it very simple. Once you have that thing going and then present it to the attorney, what's going to happen is that person's cost is going to go down, because now you don't have to let them figure it out. You've done your job, right? And then they'll guide you through the legal protocols in order to go out there and fetch investors and put the deal together. So that's one of the key components that I want to advise you guys on. So just be careful, right? So I think the fifth element to choosing the right business partners and working with individuals, past the point of psychology, past the point of decision making, past the point of victim mentality, and finding somebody who's very credible. I think it's the idea of holding all your cards in the table until the point where the deal is to be executed, right? And even if you get excited, if you have investors or partners or somebody who is going to give you money, there's always people watching you. You have to be very careful as to how you solicit yourself, how you go out there, how you put your word out there. These are some of the business lessons that unfortunately you have to learn through experience, and sometimes it's not the most tasty experience. Like myself, there's a huge distaste for the way we started back in the days, and I think that's a lesson learned. And thank God, no one was harmed, nothing went wrong. At the time, we just decided not to continue because of the fact that there's a dent in the ability to do something past the point where you're fined right off the get-go. So we decided to restructure, and I took up on a couple of different businesses, and now we're doing M&As quite successfully, and contacting family offices and doing business in real estate, business acquisitions, mergers, helping business owners acquire their competitors, fixing personal credit, you guys know me as, and helping with business credit, which is very critical, by the way, when you're going into business and you want to grow your business. So some of the things that I wanted to share was those things. Of course, I believe in transparency, right? So remember I told you guys last week on the fact that, somebody was trying to put me in my position where I offered him equity, 50%. I was putting up my own money to start a joint venture. I went to see him in the United States, and unfortunately that person took the wrong twist. I'm not sure what kind of decision maker he had behind the scene. Him and his wife decided to kind of, find that information on me and say, hey, look, what is this? You're fraud and all that. But in reality, it's not. It's an administrative penalty for solicitation. Like I said, securities. Everybody's got it. Warren Buffett, Coca-Cola, Steve Jobs. Okay, everybody's got that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, their stuff is probably a lot bigger than mine, thankfully, because my fine was still pretty critical for me. $50,000 is not a small ticket, right? Parking ticket in the financial world, but it is something. But what you guys need to understand is don't make the same mistake I did, right? And again, if you want to save money on attorneys, you want to make sure that you have the deal very well structured. Write it on a piece of paper, make it very simple, and then present it, because you need to have your idea, very concrete before an attorney looks at the deal. Because if you want to save yourself some money and want to get the deal with execution on a brilliant level, you need to make sure all your ducks are in a row, that you got everything that you have to declare, and then proceed from there. And find a winning team. Sometimes you have to run your business yourself until you're successful, and until the point where essentially you're building that business in the eventuality with partners. But at the beginning, you may have to hire employees, find investors, all these type of things. But make sure you're compliant. Make sure you don't make the same business mistakes that I've made, which cost me $58,000 in penalty fines, and it wasn't a pleasant scenario to be in, especially when you're trying to launch a business and you got so excited, and that excitement just died down because there was a bitter taste in my mouth. So I want you guys to learn from this. Don't do the same mistakes I did. Make sure you're compliant. Make sure that you know exactly what you're doing. In fact, feel free, if you want to email me, talkatbestcreditresources.com or ali@alitarafdar.com, my first and last name. If you have questions about what are some of the business you guys are doing, I'll be more than happy to analyze them if you want me to do that. Refer to the right individuals. But most importantly, if you need personal credit help or business credit help, let me know. Give me a shout at talk@bestcreditresources.com. If you found this video to be helpful, if you found that the information I'm sharing with you makes sense to you, that you yourself probably have gone through some bitter situations in the business world, feel free to share them below. If you don't want to, you can always email me, talk@bestcreditresources.com. I'd like to hear from you. So whatever you found that was informative for you to take away from this video, leave it below this comment. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up if you like the content of this video today. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. Turn that bell icon on so every time there's a brand new video like this, you'll be first to be notified. Thanks again. This is your mentor and guide, Ali Tarafdar. See you next time. Bye for now.